Welcome on one of our first sessions on the video blog. I've certainly been writing a blog for a while, as we can see right here. This is the latest entry about migrating from Ghost to Jekyll. But I thought some people find it a little easier to go along with a video than it is to just read a blog post. So this is me trying something new, and hopefully you enjoy this as much as I do making it. So let's begin. Our goal today is to talk about Ghost blog and then kind of show the method by which people post to Ghost, and then show Jekyll, which is behind GitHub pages, and then how one might migrate from Ghost to Jekyll and some of those tweaks along the way. All right, let's get into it. Here we can see the article that was posted to the blog, and we're going to kind of follow along with those steps. So let me bring up a WSL session. And so here we see just a login prompt. And if you haven't done it already, you're going to need to install Ruby. So we can do a sudo apt get update, kind of standard fare. And then you can do a sudo apt install Ruby. So when I do it, it should already found it. Sudo apt get install Ruby, and obviously you can do yum if you're on Red Hat. The next thing we got to do is we got to install the required packages. So we'll do sudo apt get install Ruby full build essential zlib1g dev. Again, those are already there. And then lastly, we got to tweak some of the bash RC. So if we open up my bash RC, what we'll see here at the end is these Ruby bits right here. So adding in the gem path just makes them so that Ruby can find its gems. So I am going to go ahead and install Jekyll. So we'll do gem. Let's kind of clear that up a little bit. Gem install Jekyll bundler. I misspelled Jekyll. Ah, see? So that happens when you do live demos. Gem install Jekyll bundler. And now we can do Jekyll new, and we'll call this demo blog. It's going to create a new subfolder, so I didn't have to make a new folder, and it's going to create kind of a baseline setup for us. All right, so now if we go into demo blog, all we got to do is do a bundle exec Jekyll serve, and it launches a new window. So let's do we'll do a new incognito window. And if we say localhost 4000, we'll see a very basic blog has come up. Well, fantastic. All right, how would we write some posts? Well, that's pretty easy. So if we Control C it, we'll open up Visual Studio Code. We can see that we have site and posts already. And so here we see posts. And since the font's a little bit hard to see, I'm going to go back to using Vi. So we go to posts. What we'll see here is that the key piece of the puzzle is a little YAML block at the top. So let me do a new one. So do 2021. Let's see, the date today is the 2nd. So we'll say 02 and say hello there. Markdown. So I'll just say that it was, and we'll say hello world is the name of our post. And now when we do this again, we're going to see that that gets generated and served up as well. So I'm going to bring back the blog. Let's see here. We'll do localhost 4000, and we'll see we have a hello world post. Again, it's already there with the HTML. Fantastic. Well, there's a lot of boilerplate text here that we really ought to fix. So let's go ahead and fix that presently. So one of the things we can do, it's kind of neat, is this server can stay running. One of the things I kind of like about this system is that when you change files, it refreshes it automatically. So let's call this one, and I know it's a little small here, but we're going to change the title to be my blog title. And in fact, what we'll do here is I will open up a new session. And I'm going to edit it in this new session as opposed to Visual Studio Code so that you can see both side by side. And so when I go to demo blog, and we're going to open up the config.yaml, we can see we can change the title here to say my new blog. We can do our email. And give a nice little title. So maybe my description is, this is a great demo blog. I don't really need multi-line. And this is, if you need to have a subpath, sometimes you need that for a domain. I don't. And if you're going to host it, you can already say what your domain's going to be. Demoblog.com, whatever that's going to be. This will change in the future, so don't get hung up on this. The new 4.x of Jekyll rearranges where these things go. So you don't really have to do this stuff. It's just for those links and authorship. And now we have our theme. So I've done the edit and saved it. And it should be my expectation that it automatically reloaded it. Perhaps it only reloads it when you do posts. Let's just edit the post. Maybe the config actually has to. Yeah, just when you do the Markdown files, does it reload? I thought it reloaded even for the config. And what's kind of cool is we can see that. See how it says the sample post? Let me edit that again. If I say another line and save it, within a beat, we're going to see that pop up behind the scenes. It has a little bit of a refresh. Well, I expected it to refresh. It didn't. There we go. So that's all fine and dandy. Next, let's go ahead and show that our config changes are good. But it does look like I have to bounce this. So we'll bounce it. And now we see my new blog. If we do about, we'll see that the links to GitHub and Twitter are there. The little one-liner, the email. Again, now here's a persistent page. You see how it's on the about? Well, what you can do with that is, again, we can see that there's an about page right in the root level. You can see the page, there's the permalink, and we can say, here is some information about the blog. You can find all the amazing things I'm doing. And so there we have a markdown. And what we can do is persistent pages can show up just like this. So if I say, we'll copy the about to things. And this time, I'm gonna have a new page. Say things. Maybe here's some information about things that I make. We'll do a little bit of markdown. We'll even do a table. item 1 and item 2. Now, I don't think our layout includes all pages, but we'll see. So now when I see this, things does show up here. And now I have a nice little table and some items. Well, that's pretty handy in terms of really quickly making a blog. And since this is all code base, it's all Markdown. What happens is Jekyll behind the scenes is rendering all this stuff into a site folder. So if we do an ls, we can see that all here. Let me install this tree real quick. One of those little handy dandy utilities I got used to from Windows, but isn't by default in Linux. So we can say tree. We can see that the site has a fully rendered site. So you can just copy this out to your S3 bucket or your blob store or your GCP file storage location, wherever. This is a rendered out website, and that's kind of, you're already to the end. And that's the amazing part with Jekyll, is you're doing Markdown and you're moving to the end. Now, let's talk about what I did have. So if we go to Ghost is another thing that runs with nodes. So if I fire up the Ghost blog, what you'll see is this is what I've typically had. And what I would have to do with the blog is render it. Now you're going to watch this scroll bar, and I want you to pay attention to the scroll bar. We can get to the end, but then, oh, and now it fills in more. Oh, now it fills in more. And this started to create a problem, because when I would render the website out, it was skipping big bits because it's all JavaScript based. And this site's pretty big. I have several years of articles, and the build takes hours to run. Let me see here. I have, we can see it's running right now. It took 53 minutes just to run the build and then package it. And now I'm deploying it. I started to hit windows where I couldn't render it fast enough. And then secondly, to actually work on the blog, the way I would do it is log into Ghost here, where I'd write new stories, some great story. But I'd actually be writing all my stuff in Google Docs, right? So I'm not going to show you my full Google Docs. But I might have a blog entry in here like this. And so then I'm literally copying and pasting and saying this stuff. And then I'm writing in the Markdown here to do text and whatnot. And the formatting's good, but then when I copy an image, it doesn't actually copy the image. It copies it as a reference. I have to copy image, come back here and here and do that, and then delete the former. This takes forever, and isn't really scalable. That's the problem. Is trying to do it this way is not a fantastic approach. And while it made a working website, this wasn't handy. The theme is great, the visual is great, but if you're not really running the app, if you're just dumping the app, it's not a great user experience. So what I do is I'd edit this, I'd publish it, pretend now when you see localhost 2368, the new article is there, and then I'd run a build that would dump this to HTML files, and then copy it out to S3, which is fronted by CloudFront, and things deploy. So that was kind of the pattern that went on. So now that I want to get out of this, I mean, props to Ghost, that served me well for a long time, but I want to use Jekyll. I'm going to go ahead and take this story. I don't really want, this was a fake one. I'll just unpublish it. That's fine. You can go to lab section. In the lab section, you can do export your content. And what you'll see here is it's downloaded a file for me. So I'm going to go kill the build here that killed the job. And I'm going to bring back up the Jekyll blog. And I'm just going to copy it to a file called, it's probably scrolling where you can't see it. I have a file called ghost dump JSON. All right. So now I have a ghost, and you can see it's a 51 meg file. That's a big JSON file. Now that I have this big file here of the ghost dump, what I'm going to need to do is fix one slight change in it. One of the things is it in the JSON. In fact, let's do this. We'll do ghost dump JSON and just do the first. Oh, there's no new lines. What you're going to see in the blog is that it does feature images. So when we're looking at the code, what we see in the patterns is we see title, image, but there's a feature image in here for a lot of these that isn't so handy dandy. Let me see if I can do that. See the feature image? That's what's in the posts, but the importer wants it to just be image. Now, you can do this in Vi. We'll do feature. It's handy that this machine has 64 or 128 gigs of RAM, so I wouldn't be able to do this in a regular laptop. That will change all the substitutions for it, okay? But normal humans, any regular users, even all my other computers wouldn't be able to do that. So what we'll do instead is do sed-inline, substitute, feature image for just image in ghost dump. And if you're on a Mac, it's sed-I, link.back-e, and then the rest of that line. Just as an FYI, the sed on the Mac is a little bit different. So now we have that ghost dump in there. It's the Jekyll ghost importer that is the next piece of the puzzle that we need. So what we're going to do here is get the sudo gem install Jekyll, Jekyll ghost importer, and on that we're going to do it's really quite simple. It's Jekyll. You got to be in the blog area, so you got to see the posts file there. So you need to be here where you can see posts. Say Jekyll ghost importer, and then the file. So here I have ghost dump.json, and it imports them all. Now there's going to be problems. In fact, let's just fire it up, and you're going to see it's going to be mad at me. Right, so to watch all these errors. See them all? I mean, it doesn't like a lot of stuff. Why? I wrote stuff about Helm charts that have double braces. That's something that is how we use variables in the liquid syntax that Jekyll serves. So one of the things you can do is, I'm going to just do one of these to prove the point. So you see here, I have some problems around line 102 and 104, right? So let's go ahead and open that one. Control C, Y posts, and it was around 102. We can see I have Helm charts. What you can do is put in this %, and it's called raw. It's the raw tag. And now at the end of this block that has stuff that Jekyll doesn't like, making kind of mad, I can say end raw. And I can search the file to see, are there any more? So just these were the sections. And now we're going to see, remember this is the first line was 102, 104. When I serve up bundle with Jekyll, we'll see that that one has been cleared out. And so that's what I did before. I imported my blog, and then I went through all the posts that had things that made Jekyll vomit, and I changed them to have the raw and end raw tags to clean them up. And that just turns off the template syntax, and I think that will fix it for a lot of people. But let's take a look at our blog. If we bring back our Jekyll blog here, what we're going to see is, let's do localhost 4000. All these posts came through. Now, if you have images, you're going to have to deal with that. So I'm going to see a couple broken image links. And if I take a look at that, it's looking for things in content images. So with me, what I had to do is I downloaded the archive that had the content images. And we can actually see that from my Azure pipelines. When I go here and we look at one of the pipelines, it's still running for one of the old blogs. So I'll just pick this one. And here we'll see the 3 published artifacts drop, and inside of there's basically a content folder, and I could just steal it from here. Content. This has all the images, and I can say download artifacts. In fact, I'm gonna do that to prove the point. And a couple years of blogging, there should be a couple hundred megs of images, but that's going to download the content zip, and then I'll get all those images back. So let's just prove this out. Again, we're trying to show people how we migrate out of Ghost. Obviously, if you're in some other store, you're trying to get where all your images are put. Usually they're under a content folder for Ghost. But if you're using other blogging tools, again, you just need those images brought down. So here we are, they're down, and so I'm going to go ahead and come back to my blog here, and you can see how it didn't find the images. I'm going to CP from and this was called just content.zip to here. And if you need to, do an apt-get install unzip, but otherwise I already have it. Unzip content.zip. Now we'll see that all those images showed back up. You can see there's the posts, and here's the site, and then there's the content. Now what happens is when I serve that up, it will bring those files in. And now let's go to localhost and refresh this page. And this time, should have had it. It looks like I pulled an old archive. So let's just find an older post. And I'll bet you the older posts are fine. It's just the build that I did. Because remember, I went over to my Azure DevOps pipeline and I just picked an older build to grab that content zip out of. So I'll pick something that's a little bit older, something from 2020. And here we see all the images. So it works. I just happened to grab an older build archive to demo from. So in summary, again, I want to keep these a little shorter. The blog covers doing themes and then how to instrument your Azure DevOps YAML pipeline and get it deployed. I deploy into AWS, so I show the steps for deploying into a bucket that's fronted by CloudFront. But here we've basically built a brand new blog. We've used the default theme. We've imported from Ghost and kind of showed how to do that. So thank you for your time and have a great day.